Hi, here's a wee film I'm trying to make regarding, I would say, 1950s, the early 1950s when I was wee. It's just to try and show you the area, what it used to look like and what it looks like today. This particular wee drawing refers to the end of David's Loan to the east side of the Central Belt. As you can see, this is David's Loan, the end of David's Loan. There's the end of the BA. It's the British Aluminium and David's Loan. Now, when you come down the end of David's Loan here, there was a wee farm road to go down to the farmhouse, etc. Now, in those days, all this area here was corn, no trees, bush or just all corn, and it was growing more or less right up to the side of the road. Same on the other side, right up the side, a few bushes here and there, that was all. And on the left, this is where all the vegetables was all grown, potatoes, cabbage, turnip, Brussels, all that sort of stuff. But as the years went on, everything changed. But what we used to do, we used to come down here in our wee bogies or a bike or whatever and come down the farm road here. Now the farm, you came to a T-junction, I'll show you a photograph in a wee while. You could go left and you ended up at the Carn, or right, you go past the farmhouse. Now as you see there's a burn at the side and it ran all the way along the side of the road. And then you came to a turn, there's a wee bridge there. The burn sort of went under the road and came on this side. This was the farmhouse here, where all the tools were kept, tractors, all the rest of it. But over here, there was wee cottages, and I understand that the workforce for the farmer, they were given a wee cottage. Well, I remember them because when we used to pass them, there was someone in one of the cottages, if I remember rightly. The rest were derelict. So they ended up, they more or less left. They were left empty. Then they started to just destroy sort of thing due to weather conditions. In fact, if I remember rightly, one was set on fire. But however, they're no longer there now. And the farm is no longer there either. But I've tried to go down recently and I'll let you see the difference. This part here of the road, I remember a few years ago, I came down here and I stood there and I took my camera out because over here at the other side of the farm, further down was BP refinery. And you could see it quite clearly from this area where we stayed up here. And apparently one of the cracker plants had went on fire, so I made a wee film of it. I just stood there at the side of my car and I filmed the fire. It's on YouTube, you can look it up, Fire at BP Refinery, and my name will be on it. But however, we used to come down here and we used to walk right along past the cottages, sometimes we used to go into the farmer and his wife was usually there. And we used to say, can I get a couple of eggs for my mum? And the woman usually gave us a couple. So anyway, you could go down this lane and end up down at the canal. Now, there's a lock gate there, can't remember the number, but we used to go down there and cross over the lock gate, and there was the gas works here. They had two big gasometers there. And if you know the area, over this area is now known as Etna Road, but they had two big gasometers there. Well, they're no longer there, the gasworks is away. But what that did was they actually more or less burnt coal in the factory, and ended up, they extracted coal from the, they extracted gas from the coal. And what was remained was what we called coke, in other words, cinders. You used that as smokeless fuel. We used to go down there, me and my wee sister and a barra, and we used to get a bag of it for my dad, because my dad believed in an open fire in the house. And that's what we did. We went all the way down the farm, right along, carried the bogie across the rock gate, into the factory, got the stuff, a bag of cinders, came back, lifted both of them over, and we came all the way back, up into Davies Road, away past the field, and we went home. We were all the way up here. Never forget that. But at this side here, the T-junction, you could go along, and you on the bend, there was another wee road, and it went down to the field. Well, it was a farm track. The tractor, the farmer come down here in his tractor, and he'd go into the field. But I remember on this part here, it was like a well, and it was covered with big thick sleepers, and it had one inspection hatch on it. And I remember we went there, and the hatch was open, so we had to look down, and it went down to, it must have been 40 or 50 feet down, and there was a sort of stream at the bottom heading towards the Cairnway. And we always said if you wanted to get rid of anybody, shove them down there, shut the lid, and you'd find out. But it was a very dangerous that. But recently I went down to find it, and I couldn't find it, but I'll show you why later. But along here, just before the road met the Cairn, on the left-hand side here, there was a chap had about half a dozen or so beehives. Of course, we wouldn't go near them because we didn't want to get stung. So we used to stand up here and watch the guy. He'd have his white suit on, he'd have his net over his face, gloves a lot, and he had what we used to call his wee Aladdin lamp. He used to pump this wee thing, and white smoke would come out it, and he'd point it over on the hives. Well, that would sort of pacify the bees who could get on checking for honey inside his hives. Now, forget that. Of course, it's no longer there now. But coming back here, it surprised me, because now there is no corn, no vegetable, nothing. It's all heavy growth, trees and all the rest of it. This part here, I'll try and show you what it was like. There's a photo of what it's like now. This was the end of the BA, as I showed you on the wee map. These houses weren't there before, but this is Langley's, David's Lawn. And down here, you ended up with that now. Got a wee barrier to stop cars going down. You can get through here with your push bike, or you've got a wee mobility scooter and go over there, which I did. Now, as you go on that road, you come here to the T-junction. Now, there's the T-junction, and that's what it's like now. Now, just at the other side of the junction there's a burn runs all the way along the side, and that's it there. Because they're about 12 feet or something like that. But in those days, this road was used by the boy racers and so on. And a lot of cars were being stolen, and this was the back road they used to use to get away. But now, when we always went down there, we always found one problem. There was always a car down the ditch. We come along here too fast, it goes straight over and it ends up in the ditch. That's here. I've seen, maybe nearly 2 dozen cars, not at the same time, different times, and down there. Of course, the drivers couldn't get them out. They had to get a breakdown motor. usually Miller's garage. We used to see the wee guy. We used to get friendly with him. We used to come down, and he had a kind of Land Rover thing, and he used to pull them out and take them away. Never forget that. But they ended up, they put barriers on the road, something like that. And over at this end, they put a stump in the middle of the road, a concrete stump, so you couldn't drive along it. You get along on a motorbike. What I used to do, I had a motorbike. But there, it claimed a hell of a lot of cars. And the bit is, the car sometimes laying there for days. And of course, in between times, you'd get the rakers that come along, see the car, they'd break into it, they'd pinch the radio and they'd take things off the car and so on. Well, that happened all the time. I've seen the farmer a couple of times. He'd get his tractor and pull them out. But usually it's done damage underneath to the car and they've had to get it lifted. And that cost money. But it was always Miller's garage for Callander Road, and I'll never forget that. So there you go. There's the dip. This dip went right along the back there, so if they were speeding, down they went, and that was it. But here, the road going to the right, which I showed you here, you could see the cottages and the farm. But this is what it's like now. Edge of the road. The cottages are along there, and the burn is still there, quite deep. Now, up there where the trees are, the road veers to the left. That's where the bridge was. And the burn went underneath to this side of the road. And that's how we can identify where the farm was now. It's in amongst all these trees. So you can't really see for trees. But it just shows you what it was like when I was wee, in the early 1950s. We used to go all over this area. We used to try and help the farmer and so on. But as I say, you can see the difference now. What has happened. It's nice to go along, but this part here, you can't see any of the cottage remains or the farm because of too heavy growth. And I'm no capable now of going searching like I used to be. But I can drive right through and come out at the canal side. And I've got a couple of films where I've been talking to a chap here. Of course, this is all trees and whatever. You can't see BP. Well, you've got to stand on something to look over and see what's left of BP now. But the canal, never forget this. Never forget it. But that's what it was like in our day. And as I say, now, it's all changed, all heavy growth. All right, if you're going to look for a wee cycle or a wee run, that sort of thing. But the trees and the bushes are everywhere. That's a wee story when I was a wee laddie in the early 1950s. That's what it was like. There's nothing left now. It's just trees, bushes and God knows what. Anyway, that's all I've got for now. Bye the new.